So in this video, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the Kaweco Sport pens and their interchangeable parts. Whether you have a $20 Kaweco Sport in plastic or a $120 steel Sport or the brass one or the aluminum one, it doesn't really matter. The parts are generally interchangeable. And that includes the nib unit and then the rest of the parts, which we'll get into later in the video. First of all, let's get into the nib unit. This pen, like I said, costs maybe $20, $25. You could get a replacement nib unit like this for about $14 or $15. And this will include the nib itself, the feed, and then this housing piece. And to switch it into your existing pen is very simple. Just get your Kaweco Sport, take it apart, and here we have the grip, so the section, whatever you want to call it. And then we have the nib unit itself is pressed in there. What you want to do is, the best thing to do is to push it out from behind. You can't actually pull it, but if you pull it, there's a good chance you're going to just pull out the feed and the metal piece, the nib, and this housing, the black housing, will stay in there. So again, you can give it a pull. The easier thing to do is just push something in there and just gently pop it out. You could use a cartridge for that. You could use I don't know what, just a skinny piece of wood, whatever you have. And now this whole unit will come out. So I have in there right now, I have a stainless steel nib in extra fine, in a kind of a silver colored one. I want to replace it with this right here. So this is also a Kaweco nib, and this is the double broad. So you can see that BB, and it's the whole nib unit. I'm not just gonna take the nib and feed out, or just the nib and put it in the old one. I had purchased this double broad, which is kind of a specialty component, and I want to put it in there. So I'm just gonna get it here, get the whole nib unit, and just grabbing right here, just push it in. You don't have to push it super hard. We want to give it a nice firm press. And now you screw this in. And now my Kaweco Sport is now holding that double broad nib unit. I could do the exact same thing with the stainless steel model. And in fact, if you know these pens, you'll know that I actually did just that, because this stainless steel Kaweco Sport actually sells or comes with a silver colored stainless steel nib, this extra fine in particular, and I swapped it over to this broad in the gold color. I wanted to have a slightly wider nib, so I swapped it out exactly as we saw. Okay, so we've established that you can swap the nib units. You could even swap the nibs if you were to just pull the nib and the feed. Let's see if we could do that. Yeah, what you could do is you could just pull this housing off here. It can be a little firm. Let's try this one, it might be a little easier. Yeah, there you go. So now you could actually we have the feed, which is a plastic piece, and the nib. You could swap them as well. Those are also modular, but it's better to work with the nib unit itself. And if you do buy one, that's how it's sold. It's the nib, the feed, and the housing are all sold together. Okay, back to the interchangeable parts of the Kaweco Sport. So say you have one of them and you want to customize it, or maybe you lost a component or you broke a component, or you just want to have a kind of a unique pen. You can swap the nib or the nib unit as we've demonstrated. You could also swap the caps. Those are interchangeable. So now we have a steel Sport. And again, the steel is just a stand-in for the aluminum, the brass, whatever you have. And the plastic one screws on perfectly. So now we have the mismatched cap and body, and it is totally secure. No rattling, nothing like that. It is a perfect fit. The parts are, I would say, interchangeable, but they are compatible. Next test would be get this one back together. There you go. That's really all there is to it. And then the steel cap with the plastic body. Again, perfect fit, nice and secure, no problem there. You're gonna have a pen that's not weighted very nicely. It's gonna be kind of a mismatch between this very heavy steel cap and the very light plastic body, but it is doable. If you have, the aluminum and the plastic is a better match, say you want the steel with the clear, it's all doable. And again, it presses on there quite nicely, and then you can post this one as well. And this is actually a pretty nice combination because it keeps the weight nice and low. One of my problems with this steel Kaweco Sport is that when you have the steel cap on the top, the pen becomes heavy. It's about 41 or 42 grams, something like that, but also back weighted because that cap is so oversized. If you have the plastic one, all of a sudden now we have a pen that is a little bit more nicely balanced. It's front heavy, but it's less front heavy than previously it was back heavy. Also, things when they're front heavy, they tend to be more comfortable for writing. When they're back heavy, I don't like them. That's just my personal preference. So the one last thing that you can try, but it will not work all the time, is switching out the writing components. So now we're gonna take this section and nib unit. I'm gonna be careful, so there's a cartridge installed, and I'll try to install it on the plastic, but it doesn't work. The steel housing will not fit inside the plastic body. So these things are not perfectly interchangeable, but they're pretty close. Let's see if the plastic works in the stainless steel. No, as expected, the plastic is too small for the stainless. So those components are not interchangeable like the cap is and the nib unit is, but that's fine. You're getting a pretty good set of interoperability between the two. It's just not perfect. So I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any of the other Kawecos and you've tried this before, maybe you have the the aluminum, the AL Sport, or the brass Sport, or something else, drop a comment below and let me know how it works for you. Thanks for watching.